Originally, the finale of Season 1 was supposed to be a two-parter, with Aussies being the first part of that two-parter. The second part of that finale got stuck in a literal hell, and it's kind of unfortunate because it meant that the finale was one half complete. Eventually, the staff decided to retcon it and just say, the Aussies finale, it's a good enough finale as any. So Season 1 ended with 7 episodes when it was actually supposed to have 8. Making this 8th episode kind of a lost episode. That was until the other day when VivziePop made a tweet announcing the fact that, hey, this episode might actually be happening after all. Oh my gosh, I think it's finally happening very soon. I'm crying so hard right now, with a number 8 inside, meaning that, yeah, it's probably about episode 8. And then they would kind of follow up with another tweet talking about the episode itself. And this is a tweet I kind of want to dive more into because it reveals a lot about what I think the intentions of this episode are, and I kind of want to speculate on it a little bit. Just a reminder, episode 8 is very much a spectacle. It was meant to be a big visual bang with a simple story as a direct follow-up to another episode. I really hope everyone likes it, but at this point, that really is what it is. Be mindful of expectations, please. Personally, I'm just thrilled everyone's hard work will finally be seen, and the story will be much more complete. That's all I care about now. It's kind of interesting to find out that episode 8 is kind of meant to be like a spectacle episode, which I find interesting because the episode is following up. What I assume to be the fact that it's the second part to a two-part finale is that it would be following up to part 1 of the finale, the Aussies episode, which, if you don't remember, kind of left us on a fucking massive cliffhanger that kind of still hasn't really been resolved in the show as of yet. My theory was kind of the fact that, well, episode 8 was originally the second part to that finale, and they seemed pretty buddy-buddy in episode 2, Blitz and Stolas, when they were kind of in a very interesting inflection point in their arc. It would make a lot of sense if in the lost episode we were supposed to have some kind of like resolution scene, which would mean why we haven't seen it in the show itself, but the show has still kind of kept moving forward. And then because we haven't seen this episode, which has that scene in it, the rest of the story just feels kind of aimless because it's like, why are Blitz and Stolas not talking about the situation that happened in Season 1's finale? Well, simple answer, it did happen. We just haven't seen it as the audience because that episode got lost to legal issues. It's also fascinating that this lost episode is actually coming out, although there's no like specific date. I think it's just gonna like kind of drop one day and then we're just gonna have to sit with it. And if I'm being honest, I don't really have the highest expectations for this episode because I don't think it's going to really fit in that well with everything. I kind of feel this way because VivziePop made another tweet where they kind of talk about the sort of, well, the timeline of events. Because some people were asking questions that were very sensical about, hey, well, the Season 1 finale was supposed to air, and then it didn't, and then 4 more episodes have aired of Season 2, almost 5, before we now are seeing this lost episode. So, was the timeline sort of always kept intact, or is the Season 2 sort of running on its own timeline, and the Season 1 episode is like non-canon because we kind of retconned it out of existence? VivziePop has a comment about this. Someone on Twitter asked, how does the continuity with Season 1 and 2 work now, though? Did Season 2 go any differently than originally planned because of Episode 8 not being uploaded when it was planned to be? Is the episode still relevant to the lore? I'll watch it regardless, but I would just like to know. VivziePop responded with, well, it kind of just exists on its own when it comes out, but I will place it in the playlist in the order it was originally meant to be. If you're watching the show in order, it will fit in right after Aussies, which is a confirmation that, yeah, this episode was supposed to be a follow-up to Aussies, because obviously it's the second part of the finale. So, the fact that VivziePop doesn't say anything like, yes, this show is required reading, it's required for the show, kind of makes me think that they kind of put all the stuff that this episode was gonna do into Season 2 already. So none of the story is like missing from this episode. Like, my sort of guess is, hey, if something I made was like a 3-part book series and then like book 2 is just missing, and I wrote book 3 assuming that like there was going to be a book 2, and then a whole year later book 2 gets released, I kind of be like, yes, finally the intended viewing order is out. You can actually like read the books in order and now all of it makes sense. Which I would imagine would feel like a really shitty situation if that were the case, because it's like, all these people are shitting on me for not resolving this plot point that I resolved in a fucking episode that just got stuck in legal hell. Like, that would feel really shitty, and I'd feel like a big piece of shit if I was doing that to VivziePop this whole time. But it doesn't seem like that's the case. I guess the final thing I want to say is that, regardless of anything, I'm really happy that this episode is actually coming out. I do recognize that I have been very negative about the show, and I don't talk positively about it enough, because I do genuinely, at one point, the show really enraptured me. And if this was the original finale to Season 1, and I hold Season 1 in a very high regard compared to Season 2, then I really hope that this episode is another banger Season 1 episode. Because, in all fairness, I don't really know how I feel knowing that the current finale that we have isn't what was always intended to be. I can imagine even if you publicly say this didn't change plans, it would affect things going forward, right? Because it's like, hey, if this happened to one of our episodes, how do we A, take steps to prevent it from getting stuck in legal problems for the future, and B, how do we write our story in a way where we don't have to bank on any one episode getting removed and then ruining the entire continuity of our show, even if you're trying to tell a multi-episode overarching story plot and not some kind of episodic narrative. I am also really happy that this episode's finally releasing because, again, all the people who worked on it just have all their work flushed down the drain because, oopsie, legal problems, haha. It'll be cool. I'm looking at this episode with, not the biggest, hopes or expectations, but I'm still gonna watch it, and if it does somehow fix all my problems with Season 2, I'll eat my own words, but I don't have the highest hopes for that. But I do wonder, how excited are you guys for the new episode? And do you think it'll potentially fix any of the problems Season 2 has had so far? Like I said, I don't think it will, but I'm curious to see how optimistic some of you guys are. I realize that I've kind of, accumulated a little audience of silly billies, and, we go around and all we do is, it's forced positivity, but we spread a lot of negativity, we do a lot of hating, but guys, let's just be a little hopeful today, let's be a little positive today. We can hate tomorrow.